Welcome back. It's time to have our press digest of this episode of our breakfast show. We are going to discuss many headlines which were published on our dailies. But before we start, let me first welcome our dear guest live here in the studio, Mrs. Iqbal Mahmoud, the radio journalist and our political analyst of this episode. Ma'am, a very good morning. We are going to start immediately as we do have a lot of banners, and we are going to start from Al-Akhbar, where we read its main banner. Combating terrorism tops the agenda of the African Summit with the participation of Prsse. Egypt to host the meeting of the ministers of defense of countries of the Desert Sahel region in March. Combating terrorism tops the agenda of the African Summit in Addis Ababa, and still with the same issue, but this time from Al-Masri Al-Yom. The technical offer of the Renaissance Dam in Egypt and Prsse in Ethiopia. The president meets with 20 leaders at the African Summit and resuming the negotiations by mid-February. Prsse started his visit by attending the meeting of the African Council for Peace and Security, which was headed by the president of Equatorial Guinea, as Egypt just 24 hours ago won this seat, a seat in the African Council for Peace and Security. 47 state members voted for Egypt to be a member. Well, ma'am, regarding this issue and regarding this visit of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to Addis Ababa to participate in the EU 26th round, and in the same time on the sidelines, he is going to have many talks and many meetings with his counterparts, with African leaders, and already he started those meetings since yesterday. First, what about the timing of this participation and of this visit of the head of the state, and then to what extent is it going to strengthen the Egyptian stance whenever it comes to the Renaissance Dam, as Egypt is boosting ties with all African states, not only Ethiopia?
Well, okay, to start with, being elected as a member in the Peace and Security Council, this is very important. Now Egypt is an official representative in this council of North Africa, North African countries. This is very important for Africa at this crucial timing. And second, we have to admit that Africa, because of all unrest and all turmoils and so on, is being hit by famines, and something is wrong, it seems. Okay?
Yeah.
So it's being hit by famines, and surprisingly, Africa is the food basket of the world, and you find it hit by famines and so on because of terrorism and unrest. Exactly. So this is very important to reach some sort of settlements to respect human rights. This is the main theme of this year's summit.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am, but we do have our correspondent from Ethiopia.
Oh, that's very good.
Yasmin Bakir. A very good morning to you, Yasmin. Yasmin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear the connection is not
Yasmin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Nermeen. The connection is quite not well in Ethiopia.
Yasmin, would you please give us just a quick wrap-up of what happened yesterday, since the very first moment when President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi landed in Addis Ababa's international airport?
Yes, briefly. Now, yesterday, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi arrived in Ethiopia early in the afternoon. Later on, he headed to his residence, and then he came to the African Union headquarters, where there was an open session regarding Peace and Security Council Committee, and then there was another closed session in which President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi spoke. During it, of course, you do know that Egypt won the 3-year seat for the first time of this period in the African Union Commission. They have discovered and discussed many files regarding security, stability, fighting terrorism, and they are also preparing for the agenda of today's opening. What's going to happen now within an hour time, we're expecting an opening, official opening of the 26th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union. This year's theme is the African Year of Human Rights, with a particular focus on the rights of women. It will be with the presence of the heads of state and governments of the African Union member states, as well as senior ministers, ambassadors, members of civil society, and official reports of the AU Commission, among others. There's an expected opening speeches or keynotes of the President of the Republic.
Yasmin, also our top diplomat, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, had a very, very busy schedule in diplomatic activities as he met with many of his African counterparts, in addition to Martin Kobler, the UN envoy to Libya. If you could brief us on the activities by the top diplomat.
Yes, let me tell you about for the attendance of the 26th Ordinary Assembly of the Union. And there were many bilateral meetings supposed to be done, but they were cancelled due to the ongoing closed activity.
Yasmin, unfortunately we cannot hear you well. We are going to try once again to have you, of course, during the day. We are going to have your briefings on what's going on in Addis Ababa. Thank you very much. This was from Ethiopia, our correspondent Yasmin Bakir. Ma'am, I'm sorry for the interruption.
That's an excellent.
We hope that we're going to also continue receiving briefings from Yasmin all over the day, inshallah. Back to our press digest, and now it's El Masri Al-Yom front page, where we read: terrorism continues the war of explosive devices in Sinai. 2 officers and a recruit fall martyrs in the 3rd blast and targeted armored vehicles in 2 days. Some would say that this is being desperate, and what they are doing is the last they can do, because they can never infiltrate into the Egyptians or to convince the Egyptians with their hardline ideologies or their false image of our religion of Islam. How do you see those terrorist attacks and the performance of our army in Sinai?
Okay, we are paying a very dear price. We have to admit this. We have people falling dead. We are losing people, unfortunately. And again, a main big title, whether in the African summit or here in Egypt, in Libya, elsewhere, fighting terrorism. I think one main thing to fight terrorism is to reinforce the principles of justice and the principles of respecting human rights. And the African summit this year is held under the title of Respect of Human Rights. Okay, in education and healthcare, rights of women and so on. So this is exactly. So this is the very first right. It's the right to live. And even we, as believers, all believers, you don't even have the right to take yourself. Okay, you don't have the right to end your life. This is totally
the life
forbidden.
Of others.
Exactly. So one way is to launch direct dialogue among the Egyptians, not with the terrorists. No, this is not what I want to say. Among the Egyptians, Egyptians are very coherent among themselves in refusing such fanatic ideas. And by nature, Egyptians, just like any others, they want to live in peace and safety and enjoy the fruit of development. And it's their right. So we have to again enforce the principles of justice.
And in fact, our security personnel, whether from the army or from
they are human beings before anything else.
And they are doing their best to secure Egypt and the Egyptians. And to echo this, back from Al-Yom Al-Sabi', we read this main banner: the fall of the most dangerous cell that are responsible for assassinating police officers. The cell of Kafr Hakim in Kardasa comprises of 8 terrorists who plan to blow up the security directorates of Cairo and Giza. This is another activity or other efforts exerted by the Ministry of the Interior to combat terrorism their way, to arrest those who are responsible for committing such
it's their job, of course, it's their job.
How do you see the performance of them? I mean, some would say that...
Very active.
Okay, you have the mic.
Okay, so the performance, they are very active. We need to see what the the investigations will show. Who are behind the cell? Who's funding them? From where are they getting their ideas?
Yeah.
We need to, as we've said before, dry up the sources of terrorism. And our investigations, serious investigations, will show us where the sources are in order to fight them, to dry them up.
And to have the people supporting what the police is doing by not to resort every now and then to the so-called human rights, as I all the time respect what David Cameron said once. When it comes to the national security of Great Britain, do not ask me about it.
Okay, in a way you are correct. You don't ask me about human rights when tackling with those who are held captives. Okay, those who are accused of this. But again, you have people, in order to be coherent and to stand defending their state and the police personnel, you have to respect other human rights. There are rights in education, as we've said, in healthcare, the state services. This was what I meant. They need to feel the fruit of development in order to stand for their state, in order to stand for the state institutions, as long as the state is serving them. This is very important. It's an equation that must be enforced. I think so.
That this is how to differentiate between developing and developed country.
Exactly.
Taking you to Al-Yom Al-Saba, where we read its main banner, the most important 10 amendments on the civil service draft law. The government agrees on changing the articles regarding the evaluation of the performance of the employees and the addition of removing punishments. Regarding this is a very controversial issue. And it was one of the main causes or reasons, to be accurate, why the Egyptians are now looking to the parliament with trust. I mean, they are not going there just to say, we agree and that's it, and to pass every law. But when it comes to a law which the parliamentary members are not to agree with, they are not going to agree. Is this a message to the Egyptians or to the government or to the international community?
Both sides. No, I won't speak about the international community in this. Okay, this is a message to the Egyptians to make them feel reassured. Okay, the MPs, the members of the parliament, are there to serve the Egyptians. And this specific law, it affects directly about 7 million Egyptians. Okay, and so this means 7 million families, not just persons, 7 million families. So it's very controversial, and it raised lots and lots of fears among those people. And so by refusing it at first and then discussing the amendments to be introduced.
10 amendments.
Yes, exactly. So this is a message of reassurance to the people from the MPs, and on the other side, it's another message to the government that we are not here just to say okay and yes and ratify and approve and pass by the laws. No, we are here to serve the people.
To practice our
so this is, yes, exactly. This is part of the job now is being accomplished. Well done.
Yep. Back to Al-Akhbar front page, where we read, dead and injured in a terrorist attack on a Shiite mosque in Saudi Arabia, 4 people killed, 18 wounded when a suicide bomber attacked a mosque in eastern Saudi Arabia. This was in Al-Ihsa city. Also, the same issue is tackled from Al-Masri al-Yom. 4 martyrs in an attack on a Shiite mosque in Saudi Arabia. The state Al-Ikhbariya news channel quotes an interior ministry spokesperson as saying 4 people died. The same issue is also tackled in Al-Yom Al-Saba, with terrorism hits Saudi Arabia and you. Ma'am, when it comes to Saudi Arabia and when it comes to this sectarian issue between Shiites and Sunnis, we cannot exclude Iran.
Of course.
Especially after the execution of a Saudi national who is Nimr, despite the fact that he is a Shiite leader, but he is a Saudi national. Do you think that this is going to take the dispute from between Saudi Arabia and Iran from bad to worse, or this is going to be considered only as a mere terrorist attack?
No, of course, Iran has its fingerprints. We cannot deny this. And we should always bear in mind that sanctions are being lifted. Okay, so Iran is getting more and more powerful, more and more influential, and will have its say in the region. We have to admit this. So I think Saudi Arabia has to consolidate efforts with the GCC, other Gulf councils, yes, exactly, and Egypt as well. Egypt is a very influential country in the Middle East. It has its say, and so they have to consolidate efforts.
Since you have mentioned Iran and how Iran may have more influence according to the current situation after lifting the sanctions.
Exactly.
When Xi Jinping chose to come to the Middle East, he has chosen Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Iran.
The three leading countries in the region.
This was a story. And just yesterday, Hassan Rouhani, the Iranian president, held a lot of talks and signed a lot of deals with French President François Hollande, in addition to also the Italian side.
Yes.
Is this to echo what you've just said?
Of course. Iran is on the rise, and it will be a very quick, rapid rise. We have to face it. We have to handle it.
Rouhani occupied the presidency.
Well, they played the game their way.
And Badrif is also such a diplomatic figure.
Of course.
So they knew how to do it.
Yes.
Well, Mrs. Iqbal Mahmoud, thank you very much for your input.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow is another day. Inshallah, we are going to meet you in another episode of our breakfast.
Thanks a million. Thanks to all viewers.
By this, we come to the end of our quick press digest. After the short break, we are going to be back with more in our breakfast show. So stay tuned only on Nile TV International.